Welcome to the REI Agent, a holistic approach to life through real estate. I'm Mattias, an agent and investor.
And I'm Erica, a licensed therapist.
Join us as we interview guests that also strive to live bold and fulfilled lives through business and real estate investing.
Tune in every week for interviews with real estate agents and investors.
Ready to level up?
Let's do it.
Welcome back, REI Agent gang, or tribe, or flock. Herd, gaggle. I don't know, guys. We'll come up with a good name here soon. It is Mattias Clymer. I am not only doing this alone, I am doing life alone right now. My wife is at a therapy conference, and it is been a challenge. I have had to get the kids ready for school in the mornings with lunch packing, breakfast, the whole 9 yards. My one daughter is also on a elimination diet to sort through some health issues, and nothing too serious, but good information to know to make her feel her best. And it's just been a challenge to know how to cook with the things I normally cook. We got to make sure that all the ingredients are going to fall in line with this selective diet. And so it's been hard. It's been a challenge, and I have been trying my best to get through it and have a good attitude and not get upset, not get overstimulated. I want to be like, a G.I. Joe that has like a military vest strapped with like bananas or something. Cause the kids wake up and they're hangry and they need food now. Just want to be able to rip that banana and throw it at them, and they can eat the banana and then they can be happy again. Or maybe when they come home from school and they're tired and, hangry again, having that snack on hand. A lot of this is about being prepared. It's hard to, want to have dinner ready before they get home because you have a lot of other things with your business to do. That would make things a lot easier to have, lunches packed the night before, so the morning's easier to get them, all ready because there's still a lot to do. A lot of that stuff would be a lot easier with more preparation. There's only so much a person, can do. And so kudos to all the single parents out there doing it. It's not easy. Kudos to just parents in general, because it's hard. It's I'm sure every age has its own challenges. All I can say is right now with the young kids is just there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of meltdowns, there's a lot of needs and fighting for attention and picking on each other and all that wonderfulness that I get to take on myself, and then not really having much time outside of their waking hours for myself. I have made a point to still go to the gym. I won't be able to today, but I've made a point to go to the gym every day, which that just always helps get my mind right. That's kind of my me time, if you will. Today I don't have time. I have a number of things that I'm doing, including I'm going to be a guest panel for JMU class. That's a local university. They are doing a housing simulation about buying a house, and I am going to be a guest realtor that can give them feedback about their decision and the things they took into consideration and other things they might want to take into consideration. I am really interested to see what that looks like. I think that a lot of the value I tend to bring is going to be in person at a house. And a lot of the value, I think, or the things that they need to learn kind of is by being in person and going through houses. I think that even if you bought 10 houses in your past, when you were looking for a new house for yourself, it's kind of a discovery process. And I think that, going to see houses in person is kind of one of the best ways to really learn more about what you want at this time. There are some people that are extremely decisive and could sit back on the sidelines, wait for that perfect house to come, that they have, a list of the criteria, and that finally one comes and hits those check boxes and they're able to make a purchase on it. But I think a lot of people, if they haven't seen a few houses that don't quite fit their needs, they're going to have a hard time making that decision if they wait until they actually find one that does. So all I have to say is it's going to be interesting. Maybe I'll come back on here at a later time to talk about how it went, if I have any insights from it. But Yeah. While Erica is out sharpening her saw, I had this amazing opportunity to talk to Tanya Bugbee, who is a coach. She is a business coach in general, but has had experience in real estate as a real estate salesperson. She has a lot of realtors she coaches, mortgage officers, and brokers, et cetera, and other businesses as well. But she has found a bit of a niche, or has a natural inclination towards, I guess, realtors, because she really understands that business. So it was a good conversation. We are getting closer to business planning time. I mean, it is business planning time for 2025, and we touched on that a little bit as well. But it was a great conversation, and I always look forward to hearing from other professionals that are in the coaching space that just help bring about motivation for people, help bring about focus. I think you really need to live intentionally, or else a life just kind of happens to you. And so she helps you create a life that you want, and helps you stay accountable to achieving the goals that you set forth for yourself. So it was a good conversation. Without further ado, Tanya Bugbee. Welcome back to the REI Agent. I am here with Tanya Bugbee. Did I say that right, Tanya?
You did.
I should have asked you that before we got started. Sorry about that. But Tanya, thank you so much for joining us. It is bright and early. You are coming from the sunny San Diego, and I am over here in Virginia, and I have probably more hours and caffeine under my belt than you.
Right now, I suspect you have. No doubt about it.
Thank you so much for being on here. Tanya, you are a coach of many sorts, but you do a lot with real estate agents. Is that correct?
I do. I absolutely do. A lot of real estate agents, lenders, and brokers.
Cool. Well, tell me a little bit about how you found yourself in this career path, and what brought you here.
Oh gosh, it's such a long story. I'll condense it. Otherwise, we'll be here for a while. I have had many hats in my career. I lived on a sailboat for 8 years. I got my pilot's license and ran a flight school. So I wrote for Cruising World magazine. So I've supported myself in very non-traditional ways for most of my life. And I did get into real estate. I think it's my mother's fault, because she was a real estate agent. And then I was in between moving. I've moved a lot. And so I became a real estate assistant. And then I saw what the assistant was making. And I went, oh, heck no. I can do that. And so I got my license and became a real estate agent. And my ex-husband was a corporate trainer for Burger King, and we moved a lot. So I have been licensed and started over in Florida. Then he was transferred to California. So I got licensed and started over. Then we moved to Houston, Texas, where we parted ways, and I was raising 2 young teenagers, but again, got my license and started over. And what I attest my success to and the ability to keep starting over is my real estate coach. So I was coached through all of that, and became the second top producing agent in Houston with Better Homes and Gardens, Gary Green, in a matter of just a couple years. Wow. So I landed in Houston, and I remember when my kids now are going to college, and my coach was setting goals with me towards the end of that year, whatever year it was, like 2012, don't remember exactly the year. And I'm in Houston all by myself. Great business, successful, closing about 50 to 58 homes a year. However, my kids are going to college in California, right? All my family's in California. I'm like, I got to get back to California. So they recruited me, and I became a coach for this real estate company, and had to relocate to California for it, which was no problem. So I gave up my career as a realtor and became a coach, and it was the best move I ever made. Loved coaching. And then I decided to start my own coaching company after about 7 years. I was, out of 72 coaches, I was ranked 4th, and just some corporate changes. And again, I'm not going to say I hated being in the corporate world. However, there are a lot of constraints for this free-spirited woman. Started my own coaching company, and I'm very grateful that I did. So I know that's a very short and condensed version of how I got here. However, I am now almost March will be 3 years of having my own coaching company, and it's the best thing you've ever done. Yeah.
Wow, we could probably spend a whole episode talking about all this because
We could.
living in a sailboat. Oh my gosh! And yeah, I mean, having to start over every few years or whatever, and that is not easy. I know a lot of people feel a little bit trapped in their business, and then they feel like they can't really explore other markets. Or, personally, we are looking to spend a year abroad at some point, and you lose a lot of momentum. Whenever you make a change like that, when you're not in and active in your business, with boots on the ground per se. Like I say that, but we've interviewed a few people that do a lot of things remotely. And so I'm going to say, just talking about the fear of having to start over. But you obviously have made that a reality. And one of the things I thought of is, that is something that we could think about every year, is like, we're starting over.
Right. Well, nobody likes rolling into January and not seeing any closed in their CRM, right?
Yeah.
That is a big, I remember that happening when I was a realtor. You go into January 1st, you open your CRM and you look at your closed for whatever that year is, and it's zero. And I hated that zero. Yeah.
And it's often, I don't know how California and Texas's like markets are with the weather being warmer. But I would imagine with school seasons and everything that it is still the hottest time would be summer, spring, et cetera. So you're kind of getting through the holidays, don't have a lot of momentum going into January. So in a lot of ways, it is starting over. And I don't know why I've never really thought about it that way, but I feel like that's probably a really good mindset to have, is, hey, we are starting this year over. We're going to make it the best year possible and talk about, how we're going to get there.
Right. And that's, again, great mindset, right? To reframe versus, oh gosh, I'm going to roll over into 1/1/2025 with zero closes, versus what can I do better? What worked well, what didn't work well. I don't want to do what didn't work well over again. And you get a fresh slate to do it better, more efficient, more effectively, whatever that priority is. Or if you do have to move, and start over again, really start over with a new database, hit the ground running.
Yeah. What are some ways to do that? How does one, if somebody's been like, I would love to move to sunny San Diego. Mm-hmm. It's cold. It is cold and flat and lonely here in Kansas. How do they do that and provide for their families? Or, that's a lot of fear that they'd have to overcome.
Well, I've done it, so I can speak from my own experience, but I actually do have a client right now who's moving from California to New York. And so we've had a whole year to set her up to get ready to do that. So It's being proactive. Like, if you can get your license online, get it now. Don't wait till you get there. Right. So that's one way. What are we going to put away for savings so that you have 3 to 6 months worth of money in the bank so that you're not stressed? You're going to be stressed anyway, but we want to reduce that and work on, having a resilient mindset. And, every time you go back there to visit family or whatever the reason, for her, it's family, right? Start your database, make a list of people, when you get there, don't hide in your, condo. So we can be proactive. However, having money in the bank is the most important piece, is to save so that you get there and there's not zero money. And if you do need to get a part-time job, you need to get a part-time job. And I encourage a part-time job, not a full-time job, because then, we're really swimming upstream then.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you have kids and other obligations, it's hard to put in the hours needed to really get 2 full-time jobs.
And that's the key, is putting in the hours, right? So yes, I was fortunate enough that I did not have to get part-time jobs. Although I don't want to say that. In Florida, I actually did get a part-time job. I was working for a grocery store in the deli department, and I hated every minute of it. But I did. And then as soon as I started having a close, I'm like, that's it, I'm done. I'm going to focus on my career and best decision. And I also hired a coach. So you don't need to do it alone.
Right. Yeah. And that's a fear for people too, is a coach is an expense. It's not going to be necessarily cheap, but obviously you would argue that it's worth every penny. Yes.
And it is an expense and it's an investment. So I have a coach, so I put my money where my mouth is. I actually have a phenomenal coach, and yes, it's an investment. I do the best I can to full pay it for the whole year, so I don't have to see it in my credit card every month because I don't like it.
Yeah.
Right. So I like, okay, I'm paying for the year. I don't have to see it. And it is an investment. And my coach saves me from a lot of bumps and bruises that, doesn't mean I wouldn't be successful, but it would probably take me longer. And I'd have a lot of more bumps and bruises along the way that, she sees things that I don't see, or kicks me in the butt when I need to kick in the butt. And I'm not perfect, but I'm not easy to coach.
Yeah. I feel like we might have some of that fierce independence in common, and I could see that in myself as well. But so they can give you that tough love, like if you are in a slump, maybe, or what's some of the ways that you would be, getting that tough love or the help that the coach is giving you.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's just the voices in our heads that pop up, especially if you're tired or stressed, and we've had NAR changes, then we've had elections, right? So there's a lot going on that are distracting. So it's helping with keeping me focused. And when I get off track, I can SOS my coach and say, okay, SOS, I can't wait a week. I'm really, kind of off the rails. And it's just helping knowing who I am and how to get me refocused into what's important and what I can control and what I can't control, because most humans stress and worry about stuff that are out of our control.
Yeah, the elections is such a good example of that.
Yeah.
I've been preaching that for so long. Like, I go and vote, but at the end of the day, that's all you can do.
Right. Or you can help people get to the voting booths that are going to vote the way you're going to vote, right? So there's things we can do that are in our control. But bottom line, the result is out of our control. And the more we stress and get derailed, and I've had clients, I've never had so I offer SOS calls. That's what, I offer the same for my clients. I remember when we got stay-at-home orders with COVID, I had a ton of SOS calls.
I bet. And
then the day after the election, I had even more SOS calls than COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, I mean, it's, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far, but I think it's unfortunate that that our media has, they're intentionally, making us hate the opposition, to hate the other side, to try to make us act and vote. And I think that just causes this, doom and dread and hatred to the other people. It's crazy. And I think, so that's one of the things I do to not get wrapped up into it, is not pay as much attention. I don't turn on the news to try to get my information. I do make informed votes, and I have ways of doing that, but I try not to hear all the noise, because all it does is make you mad and stress you out.
Yeah, it's mad and fear and hate, and even after the elections, I'm still seeing hateful posts, trashing the other person, and it's done. We know who our new president's going to be, and there's still just hateful, nasty posts on the opposition.
It spills over for a while. I mean, it seems like it always does, and I think that within a year, even if you're not happy with the results, your life will be normal. I mean, it'll keep going, and there might be things that you don't that happen that you don't agree with, but I'm ready for that to fast forward and for people just to kind of go about their lives again.
Yeah, and focus about, like, yesterday I ran a workshop, and one of the gals on the workshop is still fearful of and not real confident about new buyer rep agreements, and how am I going to talk confidently to a buyer about my fee, and focus on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Growing confidence, practicing whatever you need to do to get that confidence and clarity on how to explain that to a new client. That's more important right at this moment. And I don't want to downgrade any of again, we don't want to go down the rabbit hole of how important some of the future decisions are. And I don't want to downgrade that. I've got grandkids that, that are important to me. However, what we can control right now is the money we make and being involved in our community.
Absolutely. And we should get into that a little bit, because speaking of reframes, like that we talked about earlier, I'd see this as an opportunity for agents. I really see this as a way for you to look at yourself differently. I think that before the brokerage agreement, I forget, was that already a thing for California, that they had to have the brokerage agreement? Okay.
It wasn't a have to, it was suggested. But
so we've had to. We've had to have it since 2012, but it was kind of more lackadaisical, I would
Right.
say. And so I think this is a good opportunity to, like, let's start thinking of ourselves as attorneys. Well, if you walked into an attorney's office and said, hey, I want a lease agreement. I want it to be customized. But I'm going to look at your version of it. I'm going to look at 3 other versions of it from other attorneys, and then I'm going to decide who I'm going to pay for. Like, that's not how it would work. I mean, that attorney would be able to say, this is my experience. This is what I can do for you to create this agreement. This is going to be my fee for it. And when it's done, you would not expect anything other than to pay for it. Right.
Right.
And so it is a bit of shift of thinking, but I think that, at the end of the day, it's a positive. I mean, we can really, explain our worth and have more of a professional view. Like, we want people to see us as the professionals, like an attorney.
Right. Right. And so many, consumers are not thinking that, a real estate agent, buyer's agent is out there working, showing homes, doing, a phenomenal job negotiating, and doesn't get paid anything until the end. And if they change their mind, good reasons or not, oops, I lost my transfer, right? That agent walks away with no money. Right. And most people don't stop and think about that.
Yeah. What that really, the impact of it is really hard. And to get going is really, really difficult when that happens. I remember one of my first buyer clients, I showed them houses for months. Yeah. And then they called me and said, you know what, we found a for sale by owner. We're going to buy that house, and I'm going to take you out for a steak dinner. I really appreciate your time. And I'm like,
right. And we all have those stories. I have the same thing. I remember I was in Florida and I was working with buyers, and back then that was a lot of money. They had $600,000 cash, and we're talking a long time ago. My kids are in their late 20s and they were not even in school yet when this happened. So 600,000 meant a whole lot more then than it does today. And I had my in-laws in town, so we went to Orlando to Disneyland, Disney World. And Monday I get a call while you were at the Disney, and every weekend for like 6 weeks I was there showing them homes. They walked into an open house, and the agent at the open house said, don't use your realtor and we can get you a better price. And that's all it took. We all have those stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is an opportunity to prevent that from happening, or help prevent that from happening. And you just have to explain all that you're doing, and challenge yourself to get better. Like, deserve your commission.
Yeah. Be confident in the value you bring, even if you're new. Right. Because I do coach a few newbies. Right. And then it's like, you still bring a lot to the table. Your past experiences, like, sailing boats, and because I was flipping boats was what I was doing. Okay. Right. So I started with like a 24-footer, then went to a 32-footer, then went to a 64-footer, and I was flipping them. All my experiences is what brought me here today. So you might not have sold a home yet, but what were you doing, in the past? And you have a broker behind you, and whatever that is, learning how to speak with confidence, what you bring to the table, is the first step. If you're going to be wishy-washy and kind of like, I don't know what I bring to the table, they're going to pick another agent.
Yeah, I
would.
And, in the conversations I've had to try to get better at this conversation with a buyer in an early buyer meeting, they understand that I have to get paid. They're never like, what?
Like I said, I didn't realize, right? So sometimes it's just lack of knowing or understanding, or just not really thinking it through. And what I like about the change is that it's across the board, right? It's not like just one broker just making you have this sign.
Right.
So it's an even playing field now.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really an opportunity. And I think that you can master this, and that's a thing that we should all be practicing and getting better at every day, and thinking through everything you do as you help buyers currently, and think about ways that you can increase what you do to help buyers. One of the things that, I get into a lot and I preach a lot is how real estate, investing personally in real estate, no matter what way you do, can really help you as a buyer or a listing agent. And some of that is something that I can use to, preach to my clients, so that if I can say, I've flipped houses. I can say that I have a list of contractors. I have a pretty good knowledge from seeing houses go from, a really derelict state to, something really nice, that I can help vision a property, what it could be. I can connect you with lenders that could help you do this as well. And I can give you rough ideas. You don't want to go down this rabbit hole and give them specific dollar amounts for how much things are going to cost, but I typically have a pretty good idea of a range of what a repair or new countertops, new refrigerator, all that kind of stuff. I have a pretty good idea of what all that stuff can cost, and that brings a lot of value to them that they may not have otherwise.
Absolutely.
And so I can preach that, save them a lot of money because I have good contacts, good contractors, and save them maybe potential big headaches from a house that may have some big problems that somebody may not see otherwise.
Right. Yeah. And with my coaching clients, that's one of the first things I want them to do, other than their book of business, their clients, their database, whatever you want to call it, is growing a solid business to business one right alongside.
Yeah.
Right. And they're also business owners and no business owners. And you can, do videos with them. You can do workshops with them. You can shout them out on social media. I've got one gal every year, and this is her third year that I've coached her 3 years, and this is her third year. She does Small Business Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and does a bingo with Small Business Saturday. And I don't want to go into all the details, but she has a phenomenal book of business with local business owners that obviously her clients benefit from, discounts, speed of service, whatever you need. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's huge. Well, let's go into the business planning, since we're at that time of year.
Yeah.
I know that it's something that people probably often set aside, or don't think it's that important, or don't go into the detail. But at the time of recording, we are in the middle of November. Tell us a little bit about what you suggest for people to do with business planning.
Well, what I'm finding, and it's interesting, is clients that are new to me, I'll say, let's start with your business model. And again, they're not really clear what that means. And so I give them the clarity is, are we focusing only on your database to grow your business? Is it your database and your book of business, and you're going to focus on business networking? Or are you going to focus on your database and farming? I need to know what your model is, and then we're going to go from there. And so that's the first step. So and I don't want somebody having, 6 legs of that model, especially if they don't have an assistant, right? So it's like, you're spreading yourself too thin. Let's pick 2 or 3. And then they think they're done. I'm like, oh no, this is just the beginning. Now that I know, let's just say you're going to focus on your database and business networking. Now I need the tactics underneath. Like, what are we going to do with your database? How are you going to network? How often? With whom? And I want to see the tactics under each one. And that's where most people, unless they've been coaching with me for years, who already know, they don't even turn in their plan to me until that's at least an outline. One of my superpowers is looking at it and knowing if it's enough. So if someone says, I'm going to make 2 calls a day and I'm going to close 50 homes, I'm like, I think we need to add some more tactics to this. Right. And so I'll get an outline at minimum from my existing clients. My new ones, no. And then, yes, we need to go through each leg that they're going to focus on and make sure every single month there's enough tactics in there to get them to their end result. They've got to execute. But I know that each one of my current clients right now, every month for the year, I know there's tactics in there. And then halfway, like quarterly, if we're not, or monthly, we're not executing at least 3 and no more than 3 months, we might have to change the tactics. I don't want them to think they're failing, but maybe they're going to, one of their tactics is to make, 5 calls a day, and they're only making 5 a week. We might need to change the tactics. Or first of all, for most people, they don't want to sound salesy. They don't want to be pushy. And so they struggle to pick up the phone. And I've got to work on the mindset and reasons to pick up the phone that feels authentic to them. And then it'll happen. But if it's really not happening, that doesn't mean that they're failing. We've just got to find another tactic. Right. Or another pond to go fishing in.
Yeah. I mean, it is really personality dependent. I think that some people will thrive in areas that others will not.
Right.
I personally don't have any desire to just call a bunch of random people.
Right. Right.
But I mean, to check in with a friend, to make a connection with somebody that I've, have an established relationship with, that's totally different. And
right. Or even a past client, call them and either wish them, hey, I can't believe it's been a year and happy 1-year purchase anniversary. Or if it's a first time home buyer, hey, we've got really rough winters here. Have you, blown out your sprinkler system? Are you prepared for the winter? Because they might not know. Mm-hmm. Right. So having a really good, solid, authentic reason to pick up the phone, once I give them that, then it's like, oh, I can do that.
Right.
Right. And then on occasion, it doesn't hurt to say, hey, who do you know that might need my help? Right.
But that doesn't have to be the purpose of the call. Like,
no.
It's not your intro.
And not every single call. I'm not saying it has to happen on every single call. And so I'm like, oh, during the month of November, let's just show our gratitude. Do not throw the ask in there this month. But come January, who do you know that has a real estate goal this year for 2025? Buying, selling, or investing, I'm here to help. I want you to ask. You just took 2 months off of asking, right? You just showed your gratitude, appreciation. Popeye brought him a pumpkin or whatever you're doing. But come January, I need that ask again.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's there's a few elements I want to tease out here from what you're providing. There's the first of all, the planning. I think that living intentionally is incredibly important. We talk about this a lot, but I think it's important with your family, with your health, everything that you do. If you're not living intentionally, you're letting life happen to you. And so you can really have whatever you want in life if you're intentional and you take the steps to do it. So doing that with your business makes a ton of sense. And then obviously on top of that is you're holding them accountable and you're not only holding them accountable, but you're making adjustments if needed. Because sometimes what we think we can do, what we planned on doing is not going to, result in actually happening or not getting the results that we hope. So that's a huge part of, I think, everybody I talk to, pretty much everybody I talk to that is a high achieving person is in some sort of mastermind, is in some sort of coaching program where they are getting this accountability and they are living intentionally and getting what they want out of life by being intentional and accountability.
Yeah. And being intentional, having the steps to work every day. I don't expect perfection, right? I'm very driven. I'm very focused. I've got a great coach. I've got a plan. And it doesn't mean there are days that I don't hide. Right? I mean, I'm watching my language and it happens, the news happens, or, your kid is sick, or I have a daughter that's, having a baby in a few months. And so yes, there's distractions. However, I get back on track. And sometimes, SOS, my coach, it's kind of like off track right now. Help me get refocused because we've had distractions. It's normal. Yeah. And we have more and more distractions. We have a cell phone that beeps on for every reason. So I don't want anybody to feel that this is easy. Being a business owner is really, really hard. Yeah. I got into being a business owner at a very young age. I had great role models with parents and grandparents, and it's still hard. It's a lot of work. And one of my favorite questions with all my clients, and I did it very recently with a group of with a broker who asked me to do a class for her agents. I said, if you look back at your week, or if you look back at your month of November, just hover over your business, sit in a helicopter 3,000 feet over your business and look down at what you've been doing the last couple of weeks of November. Would you hire yourself or fire yourself? And the eyes just got big in the Zoom room. Like, fridge, I'd be fired. It's so easy as a business owner to get off track with working on our business.
Yeah, it really is. There's a lot of things that come into play, and if you don't have that guiding star to really recenter yourself and the methodology behind it to get your mind right, to move forward towards that guiding star, on a regular basis, it is easy. And I think my business has definitely fluctuated a lot. I've done been president of my real estate board twice now. And I think that often can be distracting as well. In a way that I'm happy to do, but it could also be distracting on my business. And I've seen my business fluctuate from things like that in the past. So.
Yeah, so it's waking up in the morning and realizing I can do both. It's a both and I can still be a good dad or whatever, the other goals are, for you. It's like, it's a both and, not an either or. And so if we have an either or mindset, one's going to suffer the or, and if it's a both and, how do I calendar this? What are the steps to be, I want you to be efficient. So let's find the efficient, effective steps and calendar it. And then check in. How am I doing? Am I going to get fired or hired?
In a similar way.
Most of my weeks I'm hired, but I'll have weeks where I'm like, oh, I'd fire myself. But that might be 4 weeks a year, not 44 weeks a year, right? Sure. That's normal.
Yeah, and I think another way to look at that too is like either your business is growing or it's dying, right? I mean, if you're not working on it, it's going to be dying.
Yeah.
And so it's taking those steps and working on it. Tanya, do you have any favorite books or fundamental books that you would suggest with a real estate audience in mind that you would suggest them to? You think everybody should read, or run with that however you want?
I don't have one favorite book, and so that's a really tough question. However, I do love books around what my clients are struggling with. So if they're a team leader and they're struggling with leadership skills, I recommend Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. I love that book. Atomic Habits, when we're looking at our habits, I love Atomic Habits. Miracle Morning. I have a lot of clients who struggle with money and their relationship with money. So Think and Grow Rich is a phenomenal book to read. So I'm like with my coaching, I pretty much tailor the book to what my client first needs. There's a phenomenal book mindset called Your Inside Team. So the inside team piece, that's a great book. So if they're really struggling with mindset, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm not good enough, I'm new, who's going to hire me? We got to start with the mindset. So I'm kind of going around in circles with your question, but yes, reading.
Those are all great. My wife would be very happy about a Brené Brown recommendation. So.
And I love the book. It's easy. It's just like basic and solid leadership skills.
Yeah. No, those are great. I've definitely read a few of those, so I can definitely recommend them as well. I love this podcast. It's a gift and a curse because I always have so many books to read, and from the recommendations, but it is so powerful. I mean, having that growth mindset, right? I mean, just if you're listening to this podcast, you're on the right track. Reading books, listening to podcasts, getting your head filled with more helpful information to get you what you want.
Yeah, we need to grow and we need to better our craft. I read books intentionally to better my craft as a business coach, right? So my realtors or my clients, a roofer or a Google exec, I coach. It's like, what book's going to help that person grow in their craft?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody wants to reach out to you about your coaching services or follow you in any way, what's the best way to do so?
It's easy. It's my name. So my website is tanyabugbee.com. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. I have a YouTube channel. I go live with a lot of my clients a couple times a month. And so there's a lot of my lives are on YouTube. Okay. And again, they're all under my name, Tanya Bugbee. It's not hard. Google me and most everything will pop up.
There's probably not a ton of Tanya Bugbees out there.
I love my last name now. Didn't as a kid. A lot of teasing and bullying as a kid, but I love it now.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And it's easy to pronounce. Mattias is not as easy. It is unique, but it's often butchered. So, but hey, this has been a great conversation. I feel motivated to work more on my business plan for 2025. Good. Thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's really fun. I enjoy doing this. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the REI Agent.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe to catch new shows every week.
Visit reiagent.com for more content.
Until next time, keep building the life you want.
All content in the show is not investment advice or mental health therapy. It is intended for entertainment purposes only.